Okay, so now what I'd like to do is have you, why don't you stay on the stage,
Okay.
Geff?
Okay.
And have the other speaker, Mohammed Batouq, join us. And also, I would like to have, we have two new panelists. The first person I'd like to introduce is Samy Achour, who is the president and founder of Integration Objects. And then I'd like to introduce Lance Fountaine, who is an industry principal from OSI Soft, and he is actually at Alcoa when this project began, so it'll be really interesting to hear what they have to say. So if anybody has any questions, you can come up to we have the speakers here. If not, I have a couple of questions. You know, I guess I can start with one, and that was, I asked this morning to with the panel, was how do you collaborate between the solution provider and what you guys are doing, and how do you get the resources, and how do you know how to divide up those resources? I mean, how does that work? Do you have a methodology, or do you just kind of like decide ahead of time? How do you do that? And what did you do on these projects?
Yeah, let's start with the customers. It's always better to hear from your perspective first.
Go ahead.
Yeah, of course, planning is very important. You need to work always with the provider, because the plant people are the ones who knows actually what they have in the plant, the processes, everything. And without the collaboration between the two, you cannot end up with intelligent system or working system. This is similar situation with what we have in our KPI system. We embedded actually the operation knowledge from our experienced engineers with whatever we had with the integration object system. So actually, our expert engineers, senior engineers, were part of the discussions and meetings with the vendor, and that helped us and helped the vendor to know exactly what processes we have, what different mode of operation, what process scenarios we have, and this were all embedded in the system as knowledge. So this is actually what makes an intelligent system. So you need to have this cooperation. It's very important. Otherwise, you'll end up with useless system, because data alone cannot create a good system. You need to embed the knowledge of the people to it.
I couldn't agree more with that. And the collaboration. I think I'm still. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah. So the collaboration with the subject matter experts in the company is a critical piece. But then the other piece is you've got to understand your vendor inputs, your own internal team inputs. Everybody's got to have the right role, and you've got to have the priority of the business driving what gets done. And one of the advantages we have over a lot of what I think I've heard this week with an integrated IT/OT organization, when we sit down and talk, we've got the subject matter experts in the room, the IT people in the room, the engineers, the automation, and with all those people in the room, you've got a fighting chance. And in those, we don't forget about security. We do it as part of the deal.
Okay. Samy, do you want to say something?
Yeah. The experience with the Saudi Aramco upcake plant was very interesting. What's important is I concur with Mohammed and Geff here. Getting involved the domain experts from the plant is very, very important. Also, it's very important that the end user, you don't use a lot of time of the end user, because they're very busy, and typically domain experts, they're very solicited. So one of the things that helped us is the analytics approach. What we did is we took like 3.5 years of data from the plant, and we ran through the analytic tools. It really uncovered a lot of things, different operating modes, the correlations. It extracted some of the rules. It created visibility on the performance, on the abnormal conditions. So once we had that, when we went to meet with the end users, we were ready to talk to them, and we asked them smart questions too. So we're able to, by getting straight into the point, getting straight deep into the process issues and the plant operations, it helped a lot having a very productive discussion from day one. And the domain experts, so what you bring them to the table, what they do, they look at it, they validate it. No one knows the plant better than the plant people themselves. So we propose, we show, they say, yes, no, this is the way it should be done. So this is the kind of collaboration we had with them. And it was very productive, by the way.
It's good.
I'll just take a quick stab at that. First, I want to say I'm proud to be partners with everybody at this table. So OSI Soft is a technology provider, and as Janice mentioned, I spent 21 years at Alcoa before I came to OSI Soft, and the reason I'm here is because at OSI Soft is because I really believe in the vision. And I think you've got two examples here today of companies that have adopted this vision of information as a competitive advantage, as an enabler. So I want to talk just a few minutes about that in more in light of the specific question, and that is, we provide technology, and that's a very important role. But Geff and Mohammed both mentioned the importance of working with your subject matter experts, and we believe that's true. They have a core competencies. For Alcoa, it's making metal. For Saudi Aramco, it's making oil and gas, right? So again, they're not technology experts. We believe we are technology experts. And very similarly, when you look at their core competencies, not everything that happens inside the plant is part of your core competency. So, things like environmental monitoring, or maybe energy management, or IT. Those are things that those are games you have to play in, but you may not be experts inside your company. So when you talk about SMEs aren't always just people from your company doing their core competencies. It can also be other partners that come in and add value from a knowledge perspective. So again, all those players are key, and you have to work in partnerships to be successful. I think that's how this game will change moving forward.
Okay, good. Is there any more questions from the audience, or, well, I can ask some more questions.
I think this guy's got one.
Okay, good.
I really liked the two presentations. They were very real to me. So I do have a couple of questions though, and that's regarding KPIs. So I'm assuming, and you can clarify this for sure, is KPIs drove the project, and how did you decide how many KPIs to show which levels in your group? And the last one is, has the CEO ever made a decision based on his picture? Or is that really for the engineers who are really running?
No, I'll take that one. Absolutely. CEO, no, but our business unit president, yes. And that decision most likely is to make a phone call to the plant and say, I'm looking at your energy consumption and your energy efficiency and what's going on. You're not going to meet plan if you keep running like this. And I've been involved in a couple of those conversations, and it's not pleasant. But the good thing is, I've been involved in those same conversations over the years, and when the plant manager would make that call, when the business manager would make the call, the plant manager would say, oh, I'm sorry, you're looking at bad data, we had trouble with the scales and this and that and everything else, and so it's really not a problem. Don't worry, Barry, it's all okay. Well, we've eliminated that by validating the data, and so the plant manager knows his phone's going to ring because he already knows that he's looking at the same data that the business manager's looking at. How did we decide? We've been running a business for for over 100 years, and so the leading indicators of a smelter, for where we started from a manual proposition, were very clear to us, and then there has been evolution, even in the 3 years we've been doing this, to make those KPIs stronger, to put more validation into them and or put either limit checking or turn it from an average into a count, or from a count into a standard deviation, so driving those KPIs to stronger KPIs, but ultimately the business drove which ones to use.
Well, to answer your first question, I think for the number of KPIs, you need to limit the number of KPIs you are using. Don't end up with so many KPIs, because this will defeat the purpose. This will make things complicated. It will not help the users. So try to limit them. Try to focus on the most important things that you have. For example, at cake plants, We use five. We may in the future end up with 7. So try just to limit the number of KPIs. Concentrate on your core business. Ending up with so many KPIs will complicate things, will confuse people, and you'll not gain that much out of that. For the second question, in order to make the system actually usable by everybody, you need first to make it simple, available, and then you need to enforce people to use it by reporting, by any other means, so that you have something to driving them to use the system. In our case, this system is online system available in the corporate network of the company, so everybody can see it, from the operator up to the manager. All of them, they have access to it. In addition to that, we are developing a daily report, weekly reports for the energy performance that is sent to our manager. So that's the way we enforce the use of the system. So now everybody is using the system because they know that you are actually reporting, you are measuring your performance, you are developing reports sent to the higher management. And the last thing, maybe others mentioned it before, you need to make your dashboard user-friendly. You need to put everything there while making it easy to be used by others. This way you'll achieve this purpose of having everybody looking at the KPI, upper management actually consider everything there and use it. For the part of the whatever false warnings or the credibility of the data, as part of our system, we also verify the data that we receive, and then based on that, if we have any bad data, we just eliminate that data. If you don't do this, then people will lose trust in the system and will never use it. Your manager will not trust it anymore. It just take one maybe issue or problem, then everybody will have a bad feeling about the whole thing. So they'll not use it, and you'll defeat the whole purpose. So you need to make sure that everything is accurate there.
Did you want to say anything, or?
I think picking the right KPIs is a big job. Sometimes it's more difficult to choose fewer KPIs than several ones. Mm-hmm. I give you an example. One of the most important KPIs that we're able to find that was not necessarily previously calculated was, rather than saying how much energy you consume, you can calculate how much energy you consume per barrel, produced barrel. And that gives you a real performance indicator, because you can consume a lot of energy or less energy. It doesn't mean anything. You got to look at the health of the equipment, which ones are running, what type of crude you're processing. So there's a lot of work behind picking the right KPI. Sometimes one KPI can contain a lot of information, and that's a trick to it.
Yeah, and just one point to add there, KPIs can and should evolve. You're going to find, where your focus is on a set of KPIs, you're going to get results. And, the key is over time, you're going to want to change those challenges to your workforce and drive other very important things to similar levels. Yep. So again, KPIs have to evolve. It's as operations improve and, you get better at what you do.
Okay. Dominic, you have a question?
Yeah, 2 great presentations, really enjoyed those. I have 2 questions. Looking at what you guys are doing here, you're already monitoring, you're taking sensor-based data and you're feeding it into dashboards, et cetera here. What I've got here is, first of all, is any of this IoT-based in sense of directly to sensors and moving it to the cloud and using cloud analytics in terms of that definition? And the second perspective is, if it isn't, how do you see IoT evolving and changing what you're doing today?
Good question.
I'll try first. Great question. None of the data in our dashboards is IoT oriented. We've gone to the plant level. We've extended the plant to the perimeter of the plant, and that's cost us some money. And with the onslaught of the IoT, there may be application to do some of the real cheap devices that would go to the cloud. But we would want to get that data back into our plant level historian so we can make sure that that's in context with all the rest of the data we have. So just throwing throwing big data into the cloud, unless you've got a specific purpose for an analytical calculation or something, is currently not in our vision. What was the second one? Oh, okay, good. So no and yes.
Yes.
The first one is are you using IoT devices?
No, no, we're not using it. We are just taking everything from the control system historians.
And then the second is, do you need to, and would it help you, and how would you integrate it in?
Well, till now we don't have any problem. We think that the data we are getting, the system is smooth. We don't see the need of changing the way we are doing it right now.
Yeah, but I do think the very inexpensive devices that are remote are very attractive to us to monitor perimeter fencing for maybe the environmental operations, or even monitor trucks that are coming and going to the plant. You know, we could start monitoring trucks when they cross the border or whatever if we want, you know. Those kind of things are interesting, but again, and there may be a small package you would want to put in the cloud to make that happen, but for the majority of our analytics, if we can't bring that back down to the plant and put it in context with the rest of our data, I can't see that it's going to drive a huge value for us.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Well, I actually have some others. Like, what would you say are some of the best practices you learned from doing these projects? You know, and even Lance and Samy, you must have some things in mind that you think would be best practices.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think the technology is there. You know, all the things you're hearing this week or have heard about coming in are real. You know, you can leverage data for success. But I think, you know, the best practice or lesson learned that I'll talk about the most, technology is not what's holding you back. A lot of times, and Geff mentioned this several times, and I experienced it at Alcoa, it's culture. So you've got to have as much of a people change management process as you do a technology change management process. And, you know, I think we get excited about getting things done, but it's only done when people are using it, when you brought them along the journey with you and you're achieving results. So, you know, I think that's the one I would highlight and say is most important. People are a critical part of the process, and without them, you can't be successful. And unlike the driverless car, you know, in my mind, in my opinion, people aren't going to leave this process anytime soon. And, you know, if you make them part of it, I think you'll have a great chance of success. If you don't involve them and you don't engage them, I think it'll get in your way. So that's my lesson learned, I think.
Well, I can just make some recommendations, you know, that we applied. I think when you work on projects and you're dealing with end users like Saudi Aramco or Alcoa, you'd better put people in front of them that understand their business. You can't just put some IT people doing projects like this. Like, the expectations were high, and they expect you to understand how reboiler work, how a column works. They also expect you to understand how the DCS network works. They expect to understand how their network security policies are. So there's a really a lot of expertise that went into this. The other thing is also they expect is a good methodology. They like accuracy, and then you also have the constraint of accessing the domain expert. You'd better be well prepared because their time, they're not always available. So it's how do I say? It's a very challenging, but it's achievable. And if you apply all this, you take into consideration all this criteria, and you're ready to take the challenge, I think you're on your way for success. Technology on its own will not solve the problem. You need the people with it, you need the domain expertise, and you need the implementation methodology.
I'm going just to repeat what I mentioned before. I think one of the most important thing when you're doing these kinds of projects is to concentrate on the utilization of the product. So if people they didn't utilize it, you'll achieve nothing. You can build very fancy systems, a lot of data. You can make it as fancy as you can, but unless people use it, you'll not gain anything. So I think the recommendation I'm going to give is that just make it simple, user-friendly. Everybody can use it. Make it simple by minimizing the number of data, minimizing the KPIs as we mentioned before, and try to encourage people to use it. This way you'll achieve a lot. But otherwise, you'll end up with just fancy systems, fancy dashboards, fancy sites. It look good, but you're not gaining what you're looking for.
The one I would add, the two I would add onto that is you're not trying to sell an infrastructure, so don't try to go to your management and sell an infrastructure or sell pretty graphs or sell, a plant-wide historian or whatever. Go to them and sell a solution. Solve the problem that they need to solve. Find a way to lower their energy efficiency. Increase their energy efficiency, lower their energy. Find a way to make produce more and produce the problem in that way. So a lot of this week I've heard about, well, we can't do security because we can't afford it. If you tie the security solution into that business case, it solves itself, okay? Because the value is there or you wouldn't be doing this. And then the second thing I would say is make sure you have a robust, reliable, credible system to measure the value that you are delivering to the business with these changes. And that sounds like a lot of hard work, and it is. And when you say, well, is it the project or the people or the this or that? Yeah, it's everything rolled together. So you have to find ways to deal with that. But at the end of year one, when you've done 10 pilots at one plant, and you're really wanting to go for the money to go do the rest of the business, you better have something to take forward besides wishes and dreams. And tracking that, and we continue to track it now, even though we're fully into this, and it's a big deal.
Now, I just wanted to ask one last thing is, I guess just some closing remarks, and if anybody had anything that they would like to, that they want to tell the audience that maybe they forgot or they were thinking about during the presentations, that would be good to maybe comment on. And maybe even how would you get started on this journey, maybe?
Well, I'm glad you said that. How do you get started on the journey? So you saw a morning session. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to sit through it. Talked about data integration. And the problem is when you come into a conference like this, I think you see things that you want to do. Take Geff and Mohammed's presentation, you think, wow, that's great. And a lot of the tendency is, I just want to go do that. You got to walk before you can run, and it starts with the data. If you don't have access to your sensor data, if you can't model it, if you can't start the integration exercise, then how are you going to successfully do advanced analytics or big data? So you can go out and you can solve things in a silo, but the advantage isn't fixing a problem that's silo-based. The advantage is fixing that problem and then being able to leverage the environment you created to solve other problems, or even to start tackling problems across the entire plant, optimizing the plant, optimizing the enterprise. So again, those are the holy grails that we're pursuing, and everybody wants to get there, but you can't just jump there. It is a journey, and it does start with the data. So I know this from being the customer on the Alcoa side, and I think Geff would echo this as well. You can't sell an infrastructure. You got to sell based on the value-add projects. But at the end of the day, you need that underlying infrastructure to help make you successful. So again, establish the vision, find a strategy that fits the vision, and then go out and execute. And if you do it in that order, starting with the data, I think you've laid the foundation for success.
So anyone else want to comment or say some closing remarks, maybe? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming, and I'd like to thank our expert team of speakers and panelists.
I think we got a question back here.
Oh, we do have another question.
So, Andy, can you talk to where you've seen some improvements? You talked about optimization.
Speak into the mic, because I don't think people can hear.
So you talked about optimization for the organization, but maybe talk to, are you seeing labor productivity increases? Like, for example, maybe in your maintenance service departments?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we certainly get that from the from the management team, because labor productivity is a huge piece of the overall puzzle. And the answer is yes, we're seeing that, but you see it in different ways, so you got to be a little careful. When you take the 100 spreadsheets that this guy's got to look at to get their job done earlier, and you compress that into a database in 3 clicks, which we've done, you have eliminated 2 hours from that person's day. But 2 hours of that person doesn't end up going away. Typically, they end up going and working on something more value added. So you've got to find a way to maybe not do it in terms of man hours per ton type measurements, but you've got to go find a way to equate that into, okay, what did he or she do with their time, instead of going out and collecting the data and finding the spreadsheets and printing them out and then throwing them away and shredding them so nobody else can see them. So it's a substitution, but you've got to go after the labor productivity also.
People are your most important asset. I said that before, so I'll give you a little background. My father was a millwright in an aluminum plant at Alcoa, actually, and we talk a lot about employee engagement, and he tells me stories about he went to work and he was told exactly what to do every step of the way, and how excited are you about doing that job? So employee engagement is about ownership. It's people taking pride in what they do. And I think transparency of data, understanding the KPIs, understanding the company vision, the strategic objectives, and being able to contribute to that, that's what people really want. As I said, they're your most valuable asset. And this gives you a way to connect to them in that manner. So again, I think you do get more out of the people using data as an asset, no doubt.
Yeah, I would think too, the knowledge transfer too, especially as the people are retiring and the younger generation comes in, will also be important aspect to this. In fact, that's what we're talking about in the next session, operator training simulators and immersive training simulators. So anyway, I'd like to thank all of our speakers. They were terrific to be here today. They have done a terrific job. I thought they gave excellent presentations, and I think that we really had a great team in both Part 1 and Part 2. So I'd like to just have everybody thank our speakers.